America's game. America's Heroes. A game that has helped unite the American populace. A game that has united a nation, creating some of the most beloved stars in the nation. However, the story of the game's most beloved heroes would end in tragedy.
In Monroe, Louisiana, late today, police said that a man identified as Joe Delaney, star running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, drowned trying to rescue a child.
Brandon Burlsworth, an icon to Razorback football, a walk-on from Harrison, Arkansas, who eventually became an All-American offensive lineman.
Only days after his first minicamp with the Colts, he was killed in a car accident on his way home to attend church with his mom.
Well, there's one name that stands alone. One name that signified power.
A 21-year-old whiz kid is as hard to stop as a 10-ton truck.
And becoming the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy.
Ernie hopes to play 8 or 10 years of professional football.
You see, Davis died from leukemia shortly after he was drafted #1.
After the September 11th attacks and at the peak of his NFL career, Pat Tillman walked away from a $3.6 million contract. He left the Arizona Cardinals to serve his country. On April 22nd, 2004, the 27-year-old was on patrol. At the time, military officials said he was killed by insurgents during an ambush. This even as accounts and evidence surfaced showing he was actually killed by friendly fire.
Played against the best: O.J. Simpson, Gil Sayers, Walter Payton, and Delaney ranks up right up there with them. He is great with a capital G. Joe Delaney had come out of college as one of the most highly touted running backs in the 1981 NFL Draft, rushing for over 3,000 yards and 31 touchdowns. Not only was Delaney a football star, but he was also a track star, holding the school record for the 200-meter dash. Although undersized, the Chiefs believed in this electric playmaker and decided to take him in the second round. Delaney bursted onto the scene, running around, between, and through defenders, rushing for 1,100 yards.
What did I tell you? He's going to be one of the stars in this league.
Hello, Cleveland. I'm Ted Henry, and the strike is on. National Football League has called a strike that will begin tomorrow.
Delaney was playing softball with friends at this public park in Monroe, Louisiana, when he heard the anguished cries of 3 young boys who had waded into a shallow but muddy nearby pond.
Witnesses said Delaney jumped into a lake in a public park when he saw 3 youngsters in trouble.
Although he could not swim, Joe Delaney reacted in a fashion consistent with his nature.
It was a hot day in Monroe, Louisiana. Delaney and a few friends decided to go out to the park and enjoy the day. Attempting to get away from the heat, Delaney sat under the shade of a tree. When out in the distance, he saw a group of children venturing out into the park's pond. He yelled at the kids to not venture too far out into the pond. And soon after entering, the children began to flounder, pleading for help. Delaney sprang up, About 75 yards away from the children, Delaney began to sprint, and despite not knowing how to swim, he dove into the pond. As one of the children sank to the bottom of the cold pond, he described how the cold water began to fill his lungs, but all of a sudden felt a large hand grab him by the shoulder and ripped him out of the water. That hand was Delaney's. Delaney briefly resurfaced and dove back into the pond to retrieve the other two boys. A group of stunned spectators surrounded the pond. Seconds turned to minutes, as concern turned into sheer panic. Police soon arrived and found Delaney and the two remaining children at the bottom of the pond, lifeless.
In Monroe, Louisiana late today, police said that a man identified as Joe Delaney, star running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, drowned trying to rescue a child.
And we found out there were two boys who had just gone under the water here, where he jumped in the water in an attempt to save them, and he didn't come up either.
Joe was a living hero, and I think you who are here today have known that for many, many years. Joe now is still a hero and always will be. We will miss Joe Delaney. We will never forget it.
In honor of Joe Delaney, the Chiefs wore a badge on their jerseys the following season in his memory. The number 37 has never been worn by a Chiefs player since that fateful day.
Brandon Burlsworth made a name for himself by overcoming the odds, walking onto the Razorback football team and becoming an All-American player.
Yeah, he was coach's decision, and Arkansas's Brandon Burlsworth went from a walk-on to an All-American his senior year.
Brandon's story has become one of the most inspiring in Razorback history.
The end zone, this guy is dominating offensively. Indeed, he's also a quality guy. We had more fun talking with him. He was a walk-on. Now he's an All-American. He is just what cop football is all about.
Then after being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts following his senior season, he died in a car accident.
He was tragically killed just prior to beginning his NFL career.
Tragically, only days after his first minicamp with the Colts, he was killed in a car accident on his way home to attend church with his mom. The accident happened only 15 minutes from his home in Harrison.
Running downhill. Burlsworth with his new glasses. Looks like Clark Kent. He told us Drew Carey, but same thing. That's who they're trying to run behind. He gets there. Chris Chakuma. Burlsworth, you guys just talked about. The Clark Kent, the Superman look there, 77. He's one of the great stories that you're going to find in college football. I mean, how do you not recruit that guy?
It's easy to think, seeing this 300-pound All-American heavyweight as a result of genetics and luck, but this could not be further from the truth. In high school, Burlsworth was less than impressive to coaches, being described as slow and soft, with many doubting he would ever actually play. And while barely seeing the field his freshman and sophomore year, Burlsworth was not discouraged and continued to press on, making the starting lineup his junior year, becoming an all-state offensive lineman his senior year.
And there's Clark Kent in the middle. You see the glasses there, Paul?
That looks like a football player.
That's Clark Kent.
You know, it's good to have Superman in the middle.
Burlsworth quickly rose through the ranks. As a walk-on, Burlsworth weighed 300 pounds and was soft and flabby, but through hard work and determination, cut down to 260 pounds and built himself back up to a rock-solid 300 pounds, ready for the trenches. By his sophomore year, he had earned a scholarship and a starting spot on the offensive line. Named first-team All-SEC his junior and senior year, and was an All-American in 1998. At the end of Burlsworth's senior year, he declared for the NFL draft.
He's been working with me as always, and again, the commissioner will open it. Good morning. Good morning.
Burlsworth's strenuous journey from a player who coaches thought would never play at the high school level was now in the NFL.
For the first pick, the new Cleveland 1999 draft.
And after impressing O-line coach Howard Mudd at minicamp, Burlsworth was projected to be the starter for the 1999 season. On April 28, 1999, Burlsworth was driving home from working out in Fayetteville to his home in Harrison to pick up his mother for church service. For unknown reasons, as Burlsworth drove down the road, he began to slowly turn left of the center line, clipping an oncoming tractor-trailer. He then returned to his lane briefly and turned back into the left lane, colliding head-on with an incoming 18-wheeler. Burlsworth was pronounced dead at the scene.
Third round by the Indianapolis Colts in the National Football League.
Then, just 11 days after being drafted, driving home to take his mother to church, Brandon was in a car crash. Brandon did not survive.
But the roar of this crowd cannot fill the void felt by the Burlsworth family as they watch from the sideline. They were supposed to be here today as fans, cheering for the Colts and cheering for number 66, Brandon, their brother, their son, their uncle. But his life was tragically taken on April the 28th. So instead of being here as fans, they were here as family, trying to gather in one more cherished memory.
During the first home game of the 1999 season, Arkansas retired Burlsworth's number 77. The Indianapolis Colts wore his initials, BB, on their helmets for the 1999 season. Burlsworth's locker in Arkansas is encased in glass to commemorate and preserve his memory. Foundations were launched in his honor, namely the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation, which provides opportunities for underprivileged children, and the Burlsworth Trophy, awarded to the most outstanding player who began their career as a walk-on. Although Burlsworth's life was short and ended in tragedy, he continues to inspire, proving the extraordinary things that can be accomplished through grit and determination. If you'd like to support the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation, click the link in the description below.
Sports historians say Jim Brown is the best running back that ever played the game, college or professional. But if you ask Jim Brown, he'll say it was fellow Syracuse Orangeman Ernie Davis.
There's no one close to Ernie Davis in college football.
Ernie Davis had an extraordinary college career.
During his 3 seasons in uniform for the Orange, Ernie rushed for nearly 2,400 yards and scored 28 touchdowns.
And becoming the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy.
He was very unique and very inspirational because ultimately it was the game that counted and the commonality was not the color.
The doctor said he has acute monocytic leukemia, the worst kind.
Here was this healthy Heisman Trophy winner, and suddenly the dream is over.
He's just won the Heisman Trophy. He's met the president, and now they're telling him that he has an incurable disease.
This is Jim Brown, the most devastating ball carrier in the history of football.
Ernie Davis idolized Jim Brown. From his on-field power running style to his off-the-field character.
What you heard about me, my being outspoken, saying what I want to say, doing things that I want to do.
Coming out of high school with a plethora of offers from universities for his skill on the football field, Davis chose Syracuse after being convinced by Jim Brown, a former Orangeman himself. And it wouldn't take long for many to begin to call Davis the next Jim Brown. In Davis's sophomore season, he led Syracuse to an undefeated season, leading to the notorious 1960 Cotton Bowl Classic.
Tempers suddenly flare up.
The game was marred by a racially motivated brawl just before halftime.
Teams that came to play football, and Ernie Davis of Syracuse, who's number 44, shouldered the offense for the Orangemen.
Davis entered the game, having rushed for 686 yards and 8 touchdowns. However, Davis had a pulled hamstring, but was determined to play through it and face the Longhorns, which paid dividends.
Play a king-size Gerhard Schmidt is aerial is taken by halfback Ernie Davis.
A new Cotton Bowl record for 87 yards.
But as the game continued, a racist undercurrent became apparent. Once when he was plowing through the line, said fullback Art Baker, one of them spit right in my face. John Brown played nose-to-nose against 235-pound Texas tackle Larry Stephens. To goad him off balance, Brown claimed Stephens kept calling him a big, black, dirty. Finally, Brown warned him not to call him that again. When Stephens did, Brown swung.
Tempers suddenly flared up. Avoid the play anyway.
Syracuse won the game 23-14, in due part to Davis's electric performance. An awards banquet was held after the game for players to receive awards for their performances. Davis had won MVP. The players received their awards and had just finished eating when a man approached Syracuse's 3 black players, Ernie Davis, John Brown, and Art Baker, and asked them all to leave. It was a segregated facility and they had overstayed their welcome, and the 3 men left while the rest of the team stayed. Davis showed no signs of slowing down, continuing to improve year after year. During his junior year, Davis earned All-American honors, ranking 3rd in the nation with 877 yards rushing and setting a record 7.8 yards per carry. Davis had been selected first overall by the Washington Redskins. However, Davis was almost immediately traded. He refused to play for the Redskins and demanded a trade due to the team owner's racist views. The team owner, George Preston Marshall, had kept the Redskins entirely white long after the other teams had integrated, claiming that if they did integrate black players, they would lose fans in the South. And had he not been under tremendous pressure from the federal government, it would have stayed that way. Davis had awoken with an inflamed neck and was rushed to the hospital. While initially believing the swollen neck was caused by mononucleosis or the mumps, a blood disorder soon became the culprit. Soon, a horrifying discovery would be made. Davis had leukemia. Davis soon entered treatment and experienced remission and felt he was ready to play. But Coach Brown refused, only allowing him to practice. And for the entire 1962 season, Davis stood on the sidelines. The disease soon returned, and on May 18, 1963, Davis passed away, never having played it down. Over 10,000 people attended Davis's funeral, commemorating the life of a great man. A man who stood in the face of racial prejudice and paved the way for future black athletes. Many wondered why such a horrific disease would befall such a great man. Davis wrote this 2 months before his death. Some people say I'm unlucky. I don't believe it. But when I look back, I can't call myself unlucky. My 23rd birthday was December 14th. In these years, I have had more than most people get in a lifetime. To support the Ernie Davis legacy, click the link below.
We now turn to a soldier who left professional football to fight for his country, stirred to service by 9/11, and how this patriot paid the ultimate price.
His decision to give up professional football to fight for his country shocked almost everyone. And so did his death shock almost everyone.
Pat Tillman, the Arizona Cardinals safety, was known for his fierce tackle.
Shoots it over the middle. And what a hit! Pat Tillman knocked the helmet off of Isaac Burr.
Football contract worth millions, a beautiful new bride. And after 9/11, he gave it all up to serve his country and died in Afghanistan.
News of another American death has refocused attention on the meaning of sacrifice and service. Pat Tillman, who gave up a multi-million-dollar contract in professional football, has been killed.
Pat Tillman loved competing on the football field. He loved America even more.
But now, these letters to his wife Marie and his personal journal, seen publicly here for the first time, reveal that in the year leading to his death, he'd come to have serious doubts about the way America was fighting its war on terror.
At the time, military officials said he was killed by insurgents during an ambush. Crystal signed the report that said Tillman was killed by enemy fire. This even as accounts and evidence surfaced showing he was actually killed by friendly fire. About a month after his death, the Army announced Tillman was killed accidentally by his own men.
Live from Sun Devil Stadium, the #1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers come calling
Tillman began to catch the attention of scouts around the league, as Arizona State faced the #1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. Stopping Nebraska's ground game, led by future Packer and Pro Bowl running back Amon Green, was a necessity for the Sun Devils to have a chance. And Tillman was up to the task. It was an all-out war. Tillman and the Sun Devils managed to shut out the #1 ranked Cornhuskers, ending their 26-game win streak. Tillman, however, was just getting started. In his senior year at Arizona State, Tillman logged 93 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 3 interceptions, helping lead the Sun Devils to the Sun Bowl, where they defeated Iowa 17-7. Tillman's stellar performance during the 1997 season earned him the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year title. Tillman had dropped into the late rounds of the NFL draft. The primary concern among many was how undersized he was. Playing linebacker at Arizona State, he stood 5 feet 11 inches and weighed just over 200 pounds. Many doubted he could translate his play to the NFL. The Cardinals also took note of this, but decided to take a chance, drafting him in the 7th round, and moving Tillman from his linebacker position to strong safety, and it quickly became his home. Tillman hit with reckless abandon, punishing running backs and pass catchers alike. For the next 3 seasons, Tillman would wreak havoc in the NFL. Tillman's dreams of becoming an NFL star were becoming a reality. But on a fateful day in 2001, everything would come to a screeching halt.
Good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
I'm Diane Sawyer, and it's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
Primary election day in some cities and states. In New York City, 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans want Rudy Giuliani's job as mayor. Giuliani has served his 2 terms, a limit in New York.
It is lunchtime in London, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and 8 a.m. here in New York. Live from the CNN Financial News headquarters, you're watching Before Hours.
Just a few moments ago, something believed to be a plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
Just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers.
Good morning, Michael Pomeranz along with Lisa Hill. Some breaking news to report. You're looking at a live picture of the World Trade Center, where we have just received word that a plane apparently has crashed into the tower.
It does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
America strikes back. Afghanistan is pounded with bombs and missiles from the air and sea.
We are supported by the collective will of the world. my fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
Tillman was part of the initial invasion force, nicknamed Operation Iraqi Freedom. Once he returned, he entered Ranger School, graduating in November 2003, and was sent off to Afghanistan. Tillman and his unit were sent to eastern Afghanistan to clear all Taliban and all Al-Qaeda fighters in the area. During patrol in the Coast Province, one of the patrol's vehicles broke down, and they decided to split up. One group stayed with the broken down vehicle, Serial 2, and one group, Serial 1, Tillman's group, proceeded to a nearby village named Mana, and Serial 1 advanced about 1 kilometer ahead. When they began to hear explosions and frantic radio communication and rushed back to Serial 2, they had been ambushed. Tillman's group rushed back, but the communication was broken and the situation confusing. And Sergeant Brett Baker, the lead of Serial 2, spots what he believes to be an Afghan and fires. 3 other Ranger gunners follow the sergeant's lead and open fire in the same direction, firing at 3 shadowy figures. One of those shadowy figures was Pat Tillman, who was shot and killed and pronounced dead at 7:50 p.m.
And you will see him again. The loving God reunites us all with the loved ones who preceded us in death.
Steps had been taken by the U.S. Army to conceal the true fate of Pat Tillman.
On the meaning of sacrifice and service, Pat Tillman, who gave up a multi-million-dollar contract in professional football, has been killed.
The U.S. military here released a few more details, saying Tillman's unit was ambushed while on a combat patrol.
The tragic death of NFL star Pat Tillman may be even more tragic than originally thought. The U.S. Army confirmed Saturday Pat Tillman was likely killed by friendly fire in Afghanistan.
An investigative series by the Washington Post suggests that Army leaders tried to cover up some of the details in a pattern of deception.
Suspicion into Tillman's death first occurred when his body was inspected by Army doctors. Doctors found 3 centered bullet entries in Tillman's head, as if it were a targeted killing. The doctors tried to convince authorities that the death may be a potential crime, because the medical evidence did not match up with the scenario as described. They believed the shots were from a mere 10 yards away. After the incident, Tillman's uniform and personal journal was burned, and soldiers were told to keep quiet about what actually had happened. Days before Tillman's memorial, while the family and the nation mourned over the loss of a man who was caught in the line of devastating enemy fire, the Army was fully aware of what actually took place, but refused to tell the family or the public the truth. The reason? To allow the Army and the administration of U.S. President George W. Bush to earn increased public sympathy for their war efforts. Pat Tillman was the Army's poster boy for the War on Terror. A man who gave up millions to join the War on Terror and died heroically in battle. But the truth highlighted the ugly and tragic aspects of war. Theories also arose of the intentional killing of Pat Tillman due to his controversial views on the Iraq War, calling it illegal. This theory is supported by Army doctors concerning claims of the medical evidence not matching the scenario. Army attorneys sent each other congratulatory emails for keeping criminal investigators at bay as the Army conducted an internal friendly fire investigation that resulted in administrative or non-criminal punishments. No evidence of enemy fire being found on the scene, and no members of Tillman's group had been hit by enemy fire. To this day, the details of what really occurred on the day of Pat Tillman's death are still vague. But one thing is certain: Pat Tillman is a hero. A man who gave up a life of luxury to join the War on Terror. To support the Pat Tillman legacy, click the link below.